If you live near a public place or your office is in office suites, you could have several people by default just getting on your network without you even knowing.
Using it as a headquarters meant that John Bellamy had to petition President Andrew Johnson to get his house back. And he had to do that a couple of times in order to make that stick. The house is built in 1861, so it sort of goes through the entire history of the war. But for the end of the war, 1865, it was empty. The family had lost all its money, essentially, and then the slaves were freed. And then when Wilmington fell, and Wilmington being the most important port in the Civil War at that point, that was the Union headquarters. As soon as they arrived, they looked for the biggest house and picked that, and that's where the generals all hung out. Being from the South and from Wilmington and having plantations, they were trying to protect their way of life, but they were not in Wilmington, so the house was empty and actually looked after by slaves and then some others, people who stayed after they were emancipated. And then when the Union troops arrived, using it as a headquarters meant that John Bellamy had to petition President Andrew Johnson to get his house back, and he had to do that a couple of times in order to make that stick, because he had to renounce his Confederacy, I suppose you might put it that way, because he had been a huge supporter of the Confederacy and much of his family had fought on the Confederate side. So in that respect, he had to go back and sort of beg to get his house back and look for forgiveness, as it were, and a pardon, which he eventually got. And then they arrived back in late 1865 and took possession again, and then had to kind of rearrange their lives based on this new reality. In terms of who was here at the end of the Civil War and the finality of that war, the Bellamy is sort of a pivotal spot for it. So we interpret that when we give tours and that kind of thing as well. So I think coming to see it is obviously very important, because then you get an example, maybe just a little slice of what life was like right then at that moment in time.
The North Carolina Coastal Federation is nothing if not for our volunteers. We use volunteers for everything from all of our restoration projects to our advocacy work, whether it's folks going up to meet with their elected officials in Raleigh, which we do a lot of, to folks that help us plant marsh grass, folks help us bag oysters that we use to build oyster reefs behind Masonboro Island and next to Wrightsville Beach. We've been looking for a permanent home for our Southeast Regional Office for close to 10 years. We've been in rented space, and so it's been a real process to find a place that really envisions our mission. And our mission is that we work in partnerships with all kinds of people on projects that help protect coastal resources and water quality. So what better place than this property, which is directly next to some coastal marshes. We do a lot of work with the town of Wrightsville Beach on water quality projects, and we bring lots and lots of kids and people to our sites. So this will really allow us to bring people into a central place that will be their home as well as ours, our office space. Wrightsville Beach, the town, really made a commitment to historic preservation when they created this historic square. And the idea was that there are 4 properties, there are 4 lots that could only be used to house nonprofits. So they made if you will, a concession to nonprofits to have very desirable space. The deal was you had to bring your own historic home with you. That's what happened with the Wrightsville Beach Museum and with the Visitor Center. In our case, we found a home that was going to be demolished. And just to make it a little more challenging, that home could only be moved by water. We operate in all 20 coastal counties, and we have 3 offices. So this will be sort of the third piece of our goal to represent the coast with 3 permanent centers. In rented space, we've really had to take our educational show on the road, so to speak, whereas now we will have displays there that if you're just in town for a week or a day and you want to learn something about the Coastal Federation or about your coast, we'll have permanent displays, we'll have walking tours from the center, we'll have culinary coastal adventures at the center where you learn not only to cook, but where your seafood comes from that you're cooking and how that seafood is dependent upon clean water. So everything we do makes that connection back to the coast and protecting that coast. We have about 11,000 citizen members in North Carolina, and many of them live in the Triangle area. So, folks may be interested in what we do because they visit the coast. So we're going to be in a great location for people to walk in or call and set up a tour, something like that. So we're really hoping that this is a hub of activity and that it's noisy and full of people, and that those people then become excited and involved in their coast. Our center itself will be a model of what we call good practices for water quality. So we'll have a cistern, we'll have a rain barrel, we'll have rain gardens. All of our downspouts will drain into these features rather than into the drains near West Salisbury and right into the adjacent waterways. So we hope folks will stop by and learn something. We're using pervious pavement for all of our walkways, for the parking spaces. So the house itself should be a training tool for folks. We work with towns, we work with developers, we work with elected officials, and we work with residents and kids. So anybody who shares our view that we need to protect our coast for future generations, we want to work with them. We want you to come out, get dirty, get muddy, play with us. We'd love to have you. And that's how we've been successful since 1982.
Around here, we work hard for you. We get started before the sun comes up and work well into the night. We use only the freshest ingredients for our food and our craft beers. At Front Street Brewery, we're passionate about our work and what we serve. For nearly 20 years, we've been proud to call Wilmington home. So from our family to yours, thanks for coming in. Front Street Brewery, serving you since 1995.
Look through the eyes of the past and see the future as history comes to life. Explore and discover the stories and memories of life at sea.
Chief, losing main steam pressure.
History comes alive on the battleship North Carolina.
The most talked about travel experience is a river cruise. We work with top name operators. There is no better way to see the world than on a river cruise from Four Seasons Travel and spend less time getting there and more time being there.
Bring your home movies into Carolina Video Edit Centers for professional high-quality transfer. From old-school VHS to the latest digital cameras, we can transfer to disk, hard drive, or upload directly. Whether it's digital archiving or social media sharing, we can do it at Carolina Video Edit Centers.
It's a little taste of Mexico right here in Wilmington. La Costa Mexican Restaurant. Start off the night with La Costa Rita or one of their delicious icy cold drinks. Then dig in for delicious La Costa specialties like arroz con pollo, carne asada, seafood molcajete, and fajitas. La Costa Mexican Restaurant with 3 locations in Porter's Neck, Market Street, and Oleander.
Our tour is a walking tour, and it's approximately an hour long. Our tour guests will be brought around by our wonderful and knowledgeable group of tour guides. They will be sharing a lot of stories and history of EUE Screen Gem Studios, and they will also take them on the set of CBS Under the Dome, and then they will get to go into our screening room where they'll get to watch a short film which explains what we do here at EUE Screen Gem Studios. Then of course they get to walk the entire grounds of our studio lot. So it is a full 1 hour, and I feel our guests get to leave and really get a great glimpse of what happens here at our studio and the inner workings of the film industry. Well, we had our official opening weekend, and it was a phenomenal weekend. I couldn't have asked for a better opening weekend. We had beautiful weather, great attendance, great turnout on all our tours, and the feedback was overwhelming. And we had many guests line up well over a half hour in advance to secure that they would get a ticket for the tour. and they just all had a great time, and we had so many folks after the tours just so excited to go out and tweet and Facebook and utilize social media to let everybody know what a great time they had, and they couldn't wait to come back with more family and friends. The film incentive is something that is on the forefront of many people's minds in the film industry, and the film industry helps create jobs in our area, and it's really helped make this studio what it is today, which is phenomenal, and the largest motion picture facility studio outside of Los Angeles. Doing our tours is just a great way to showcase what our studio is all about, and it gives folks a real understanding of the impact and the importance of the incentive, not only to our area, but again to the industry.
Wilmington is great. We're winding up, but Wilmington is a wonderful place to work.
Oh man, on record, I'm loving Wilmington. I really do. I love Wrightsville Beach. I love downtown, and I had a great time last year and this year as well. It's great restaurants, really good people, and it's just a real fun town to film in.
Kind of had a little bit of a knee injury before season 1, so I was a big surfer back in Los Angeles, and I never got a chance to, season 1, surf out here in Wrightsville Beach. So this season I've kind of tried to get back in the water and rehab my knee a little bit and get back on the board.
Being near the beach is awesome. Yeah, getting off and being able to go to the beach and hang out in the sand and water is great.
I really like Wrightsville Beach, and downtown is cool too. I haven't gone down there as much, but the Serpentarium, that's fun. You get to watch them feed those like huge snakes that are like this big around. Yeah, I really like it here.
It's a beautiful little city. Structurally, architecturally, I could spend hours and have spent hours walking around downtown. My wife is here now. She's driving around going, oh man, I got house envy. I got house envy. I mean, it's a beautiful place. You guys have beaches that I think are second to none. I've had good interactions with people, and I'm really appreciating the opportunity to be out of a big city environment, you know, and still kind of able to do something that I love to do, and I don't think I'm missing anything.
Tower 7 is the reigning 2-year champion of my favorite eating spot here in Wilmington, North Carolina. So definitely, I've probably been there, I'm not even gonna say how many times I've been there because it's embarrassing.
Jackson still holds a very near and dear place in my heart. Parchee's fantastic. We did a little catch, we did a little brasserie and Portland Grill. Yeah, I still love to, that, and I've been smoking a lot lately. I got not smoking. I got one of the guys here on the crew made me a big 55-gallon drum smoker. Oh, my biggest passion, flying, easily flying. I love aviation, and especially being here in Wilmington, the crew laughs at me because when being so close to all the different marine bases here and everything else, when the Harriers come over, or I'm falling out of my trailer every time something comes over, and they're just in the makeup trailer laughing at me.
We are very heavy on location between last season and this season. There's a lot playing with the interaction of the dome itself, so you need to be outside for all of that. Wilmington's a great place because it offers so many different looks that you can't always get everywhere else in such a small area. Different areas to do some filming on the water, to coming downtown to getting a city feel, and then going out into the country that's not really far away.
I actually started on One Tree Hill about 8 years ago as a PA in the wardrobe department. You know, when it's scripted of who they are, it immediately pops in my head, luckily, for how they should be dressed. And you know, and I just go out shopping accordingly, have fittings with them. We do most of our shopping locally to support, of course, you know, our state and our city.
Oh, it's amazing, yeah. It's a lot to offer. There's a great crew base here. There are local people. It's a really friendly environment to shoot. It's good for the business.
Alpha Mortgage, We're the only full-service mortgage banking firm in southeastern North Carolina. From origination through processing, underwriting, funding, closing, we do it all locally. More than 90 professional staff right here in Wilmington. Alpha Mortgage is the leading mortgage lender in southeastern North Carolina. Alpha Mortgage is the lender more real estate agents and builders rely on. We work with your realtor and your builder every step of the way from application to closing. We have the best rates, best service because we are Alpha. Alpha Mortgage.
Hieronymus Seafood and Oyster Bar, voted best seafood restaurant in Wilmington by Encore magazine readers. Here is where you can count on the freshest local seafood daily, served with fresh herbs selected from their own garden. Enjoy daily chalkboard drink specials in the cocktail lounge. Choose to eat in the Oyster Bar for freshly steamed oysters or crab legs. Or you can dine family style in the comfortable and spacious dining room. Seasonal catch from local waters is always on the menu at Hieronymus Seafood, where fresh is best.
Your passport awaits to 3 of Wilmington's most historic homes. Now for one low admission price, you can visit Bellamy Mansion, the city's grandest antebellum home. Burgwyn Wright House Museum and Gardens, beautifully restored for a step back in history, and Latimer House, representing opulent life in Wilmington before the Civil War. Purchase your passport at any one of the historic home locations and discover 3 great reasons to visit Wilmington's past. Tickets are good for 1 week from the date of purchase.
If you're setting up Wi-Fi at the home or in your business, I always think it's a good idea to set it up in dual channel where you have a private network for your residents or your staff, and then have a public network with limited access to the rest of the network. It provides a egress to the internet, and that's about it. You have one that's secure, one unsecured. First thing you do when you get a wireless router is change the default password. Typically the default password is password. Every now and again you'll see something a little different, but change that first, then go in and make other changes. You can do MAC filtering, which a MAC address is a hardware address that each device on your network has. So if another device tries to come on the network and they're not in that MAC filter, they will not be allowed access to the network. If I know that I have 3 computers on my network at home, and I know that everyone in my house has a phone, then I know that I have 6 nodes on my network. So I will limit how many IP addresses can be on my network to 6. And then I don't have to worry about trespassers or hitchhikers on my network, because once I have it at full capacity, it will not give them any more IPs, and that helps quite a bit. With your router, you can log in and actually see how many devices are attached. If you didn't want to do that, there's apps for your phone. One of the ones I use is called Fing. Fing is a free app you can download, and it will tell you every node on your network. Most nodes are easily identifiable. It'll say Brian's phone or Brian's PC or something along those lines, but if you see something that doesn't look like it should belong there, you can then log into your router and reconfigure it to block that particular device or whatever it may be, and see if it breaks something within your house, and you can turn it back on, or then you've secured your network against that. And the thing with Wi-Fi is you're never going to be truly 100% secure, but being proactive is definitely the way to practice that, and do random security audits. A couple times a year, make sure that you don't have hitchhikers on your network. Depending on where your proximity is, if you're near if you live near a public place or your office is in office suites, you could have several people by default just getting on your network without you even knowing it. Another thing is strong passwords. How the human brain works is the typical password is 4 to 6 characters, starting with a capital letter and ending in 1 to 2 numbers. So hackers and crackers know this. They then set up their dictionary attacks and their cracking attempts in that format. So what you do is start off with a number or a character like an exclamation point or an asterisk, and then you end in a capital letter. It's not saying that it's going to stop them from being able to hack or crack your password, but it will slow their attempts to hopefully you will be able to see their attempts. Because typically when in those type of scenarios, they have a limited amount of attempts to be able to crack into something before they're locked out. And that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to slow them down.
This is Liz Coughlin from Four Seasons Travel, and I have some travel tips that you might appreciate knowing ahead of time in making your travel plans. The first one is to have your passport in your hand before you start making travel plans, whether you're working with a travel professional or if you're going online. I would still have my passport in my hand. Sometimes the wait can be longer than you're expecting, and you can get a little bit frustrated and, in fact, quite a bit nervous if you don't have that passport already. The second travel tip I would say is to get your TSA pre-check. It's something that you can now do in Wilmington. It is $85, so if you're an infrequent traveler, it might not be to your benefit, but for someone like myself who does travel quite a bit, it could be a great time saver and stress reducer. I had to fill out a form online. I could pick a time and a date. It does take about 3 weeks or more to get a date, so the quicker you submit your application, the quicker you'll get a date to go and give your fingerprints at a designated office and time. And this way, when you go through security, you can breeze through and look at the other people in line and be very glad that you're not in line still trying to get through security. The last travel tip that I think is really important is to consider insurance. Travel insurance can really benefit you, not just for if you have to cancel due to medical or accidental, but if your plane is delayed or if there's weather conditions that will keep your plane from getting to its destination. Insurance is a really good investment in your travel plan. You should consider who you're buying your travel insurance from. There are many bona fide travel insurance companies, as opposed to buying your travel insurance directly from the cruise line or a tour company who happens to be offering insurance. If something should happen to that company that you bought your tour or your cruise from, your insurance would be void. So those are 3 tips that maybe you can benefit from in making your travel arrangements.
Discover more to do and see in Wilmington. See the attractions, events, businesses, and people that make this a great place to live. Keep your eyes on us as we keep our eye on Wilmington. On CBS 10 WILM. Moores Creek National Battlefield site about 20 miles from Wilmington was the site of a dramatic Revolutionary War victory for the colonies and patriots in 1776. English loyalists charged across a partially dismantled Moores Creek Bridge February 27th of that year. Just beyond the bridge, nearly 1,000 North Carolina patriots waited quietly with cannons and muskets poised to fire. The Loyalists, mostly Scottish Highlanders wielding broadswords, expected to find only a small Patriot force. As the Loyalists advanced across the bridge, Patriot shots rang out and dozens of Loyalists fell, including their commanders. Stunned, outgunned, and leaderless, the Loyalists surrendered, retreating in confusion. This dramatic victory ended British authority in the colony and greatly influenced North Carolina to become the first colony to vote for independence. Throughout the park, remnants remain of the 1776 road traveled by Patriot and Loyalist forces. A 1-mile trail with wayside exhibits leads through the battlefield across Moores Creek. The historic bridge site is located along the trail. The park offers a visitor center with exhibits and audiovisual program. 2 self-guided trails, including a 1-mile history trail and a 1/3 mile Tar Heel Trail. Moores Creek National Battlefield site is located on North Carolina 210, about 3 miles west of U.S. Route 121, or from I-40, take Route 210 west about 15 miles. National Park Service military sites have many designations, including battlefields, military parks, monuments, and historic sites. Moores Creek National Military Park was renamed Moores Creek National Battlefield in 1980 to avoid confusion with military installations in North Carolina. Moores Creek National Battlefield has the oldest continuing serving Friends group in the national park system. The Moores Creek Battlefield Association was formed in 1899.